kind of like a, I think people like Mike because I'm kind of a unique kind of character.
And I
love
you just see how games and possessions are more intense, how they mean more. I think the U.S. is going to obviously win.
There comes a time in any discursive mode when basic tenets and principles, things typically so over-discussed and talked about, must still be repeatedly asked because they hold such rhetorical heft that they must be debated and analyzed over and over again to be mined for hidden truths and valuable nuggets we missed the first time around. This week, we come to you with such a panel of experts to mull over such a proposition. On Nothing But Respect, we have assembled our experts to talk through the following provocation. We outmeeted Shai. Did we outmeet Shai? Under what circumstances was the outmeeting done? Who is the measure of such a metric? On our panel this week, we have me, Patrick Redford, a writer for Defector, Harry Krinsky, a point guard in the basketball court of ideas, and a writer whose work we both dig a lot, and we're happy to have him as our third guest in the podcast history, Mr. Ock Sportello. We'll start with you. Where do you fall on the issue of whether or not we've outmeted Shai?
Outmeeting Shai is like there's a physical truth and also like a mindset to it. Like my goal is to outmeet the other two guests, but also there are, there is the physical bulge comparison of it all. But it's like one way or another we were outmeeting Shai. Like the Cavs are 15-0. It ties closely into the aura thing. Like, it's not just how you look. There's something there. But I do think, in general, outmeeting is possible. But the more important question is, what does it mean to outmeet?
I think that's very well put. It is. What we're going to try to get to the bottom of is, like, what does it mean to be on a Skims ad where your dick looks a little bit bigger than the possible MVP of the league. But just on the question of did we or did we not outmeet Shai, I think perhaps one of the things that you can a metaphor we can string together about all of this is that one of the reasons the Cavs are 15-0 is that they get to combine Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell's meat versus just Shai's meat. So it's like
not to get teleological about it, but it is a somewhat cumulative question, is it not?
Exactly. To say nothing of refractory periods.
I think the we does a lot of work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's the most important word in that tweet. And in the replies, the person who has done this tweet, people are like, man, you guys are really having a meet off. Like, what's going on? And then he's just like, and we're winning. Like, there's no shamefulness. There's no just like, oh yeah, I did a clever joke. It's just like, look at the evidence. Like, you can see it right there. And as you said, the Cavs haven't lost since we outmeted Shai. So like, hard to really argue with any of this.
Yeah, you get the sense immediately when you see certain turns of phrase that they're just never leaving your brain. And bulge for bulge was one of those that just immediately the grooves of my brain had been rewired.
Harry, do you want to explain why I'm talking all crazy like this?
I was going to say, if you're listening, you may find yourself a little confused and a little bit of like, wow, I kind of understand what's going on, but I can't fully see the contours of the of what we're talking about here. And that actually is good in a sense, because we are going to dive into something that is a bit of an Aurora Boreas. It's like it can be a little bit hard to make sense of it almost by design. And what I am specifically talking about here is aura. Okay. At the top, we were talking about how we digged Ock's writing. He writes a wonderful Substack called Never Hungover. A piece that the piece that I found him, the first piece I read of his was a piece called "What Is Aura?" that is breaking down this bizarre topic, which we will get into, and has kind of far-reaching ties all the way to Ball Don't Stop's Trump endorsement to outmeeting Shai. So I think I want to first ask, because aura is this loose term of which you define in this great article. So I want to turn it over to you, Ock. What is aura in a basketball context?
Yeah, I mean, it's doing a lot of work here, but like the elevator pitch is more or less the basketball players that their fans most want to fuck. But it's like there is more to it. It's not just an analysis of like who is the most conventionally attractive player, although that has a lot to do with it. There's kind of like, for lack of a better word, a Buffalo Bill thing going on where fans want to fuck and be the player. And so Aura also ends up being the players that like kind of feel like they were made on a My Player account of someone with like all of their parents' money at their disposal. Like the coolest accessories and the best like facial symmetry, and there's just like and also the coolest style of play. Right? It's this nebulous thing that more or less stands for your desirability.
Yeah, I think that's what sort of made me so interested in this. The sort of the theory and its definition is that it's like it's more than just simply like an aesthetic mode. It also has like it has to do with basketball, but it's not fully to do with basketball. The fact that it's sort of this like synthesis between the two. And I think the most interesting parts of the story that you get to are like basically how this maps onto fandom more generally, and then like what the specific NBA tweaks of it are. So like you talk a little bit about fan fiction in there, and I think it'd be interesting to sort of like walk people through like your journey finding out about this word, and then like why you felt like called to interrogate it, I guess.
For sure. So I come to NBA Twitter, NBA X, I guess, whatever it is now, already disastrous NBA Blue Sky, but from being a Nets fan. And so it was a very small tent for a long, long time. And then you have this brief dance with the big three, and all of a sudden being a Nets fan on the internet meant following a lot more accounts. One of the accounts I followed is just this supernaturally funny kid who seems to be from Harlem. It's one of those accounts that always changes because it keeps getting banned. It's been wavy forever.
It's a sign of quality.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, but also like it necessitates lore, right? It's like, oh, you weren't there for V1, but whatever his name is now, his name's Dre, and he's this great kid. But like among his other bits, one of them has been just being like the most ardent Kevin Durant stan of all time. Like an infamous tweet of his was, I'm paraphrasing, but he more or less told someone that like KD was too rich to talk to him right now, so I'm going to stand in and tell you to go get some hoes. You know, like it's like he really is like a brilliant creative mind. But he started tweeting a bunch about Aura. And it was imported, as best I could tell, from the soccer context. I think a lot of soccer fans on Twitter would talk about Aura, and I think this kid kind of tongue-in-cheek realized that more and more he was seeing people talk about a player's aura with like fan cams that had nothing to do with soccer itself, right? It's just like them walking through the tunnel or wearing like a cool jumpsuit or whatever. And I think he started messing around with it, which was around the time I started seeing it. So it's like half, why are y'all talking about aura like this? And half claiming that Shai has aura. And so that's kind of where I got interested. And then the rest just blew up.
The soccer timing of it all is pretty interesting because the Euros happened like right after you wrote this story, and that was like this incredible proving ground of the thesis as basically correct, because the defining like sports qua sports of that tournament was that like real hoops were back, basically. Like there was none of this like possession game Pep Guardiola shit. It was just like hot defenders with crazy hair like ripping shots from 35 yards, and all anyone could talk about is like how hot Ricardo Calafiori is and how he has aura and shit. And it was like this just primed me to enjoy that like mode of fandom in this perfect way.
Yeah, it is like the most. Oh, sorry to cut you off.
No,
like,
you go.
I'm sure we'll get into this, but it is like a clarifying mechanism, especially when you're approaching sports that like you know less about, or watching game that you have less investment in. Like, I feel like right now there's obviously been this mode of watching for a long time that has been like, for lack of a better word, like the league pass nerdy, like, kind of soy facing at like these random like bottom tier teams going at it at the 10 p.m. slot. But if you don't have like that specific dog in you, I feel like the most encouraged mode of rooting for a random game is by being a gambling addict, which is just like its own can of worms and feels like spiritually corrosive. And there's something kind of like simple and beautiful about being like, who is the sexiest player? like who shoots the most mid-range jumpers and like has some sense of ethical hooping about him. Let me go root for him. I don't know. It's kind of beautiful.
No, I agree with that. I agree that there was like a overcorrection that I first started seeing in the post-retirement incessant praise of Melo as this like forgotten bucket getter, even though, and this kind of like wiping the slate of like, basically never won anything, was demanded a trade in New York just to make his teams worse, but whatever, but was a fucking walking bucket. And
like famously so.
Right. And this, the seeds of what is now, semi-homoerotic, like aura videos was being like, what was awesome and like not a sterile superstar is Carmelo. And that was exciting. One thing I want to bring up on the soccer thing, because I similarly clicked with the with this soccer thing. One, I have one of my good friends, Eli, who's big in footy Twitter, is always telling me that all of this stuff starts in soccer Twitter. That there's something about the secret sauce in soccer that makes it way over here. One of the key differences, though, between soccer as a sport or Premier League as a sport and the NBA as a sport is the Premier League and soccer in general has this culture of it being about the journey. If you are a team that was like 16th place and then just pull together a good season and end up like 7th place, that's like a successful season for a lot of Premier League teams. If you have a underperforming year but you win the South London Derby as Arsenal or whatever, like that can be seen as a North London Derby, can be seen as a success. And that is so not the case in the NBA, where it's basically, rings, culture, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But aura makes so much immediate sense in soccer. If it's about the journey, then you might as well be, sexy about it. But it creates this funny tension when it's about being sexy in basketball, but it's also only about winning the championship, which is where you get this weird kind of schizophrenic NBA Twitter perspective, which maybe, fits Twitter or whatever. So I just think that's a big part of it for me as well.
Well, I mean, you do see like, I feel like one of the like second, like if we're going to break aura down to categories, like when you go underneath like one's haircut and again, like facial symmetry, one of the things I think that people point to as like a sign of aura is who wants to be around you, which kind of like dovetails into the ring chasing thing or ring culture thing a little bit, because I also think, if we're going to go back to like out meeting, like part of out meeting someone is like what Team USA superstars want to play around you or be around you. Like I do think, if Anthony Edwards is this like a top 3 aura guy, Kevin Durant gets a lot of aura that Ant is following around like a puppy dog at the Olympics. And so I do think like aura is definitely immediately compatible with just kind of like that whole heuristic. But I also think like the interesting thing about what you're talking about with like soccer and the culture of how someone like makes meaning in a season is I do think this aura stuff, and also if we get into it, the just like cult of pure hooper, is these are all, you called them an Ouroboros earlier, but like I really do think that's spot on, where they are both like pre and post ironic sentiments that are all circling around this like weird endeavor of like, what does it mean to be a fan of something? And in this specific instance, basketball. And like, aura comes to the NBA from someone who is making fun of soccer Twitter. And so the entire time it's tongue in cheek, right? Like it is always a joke. And yet it's also like always kind of real. And there's this, I don't know. It always is these semi-schizophrenic, 18 to 25-year-olds who are trying to joke themselves out of, the very real fact that they are obsessed with the fates of, a bunch of millionaires who don't know them. There really is this give and take.
I think one of the first examples you use in the piece is actually, a pretty great illustration. It's like a scouting report of Rob Dillingham, where it's 40% from three, 65%, whatever, this many rebounds, and then just aura as its own thing. And I think that points to a pretty interesting thing about soccer and basketball. And in basketball, what do we have that fuels every online argument, whatever, is stats. We can quantify exactly how effective an individual player is. And so therefore style and substance are pretty distinguished, different tracks of how you can appreciate a player. But in soccer, pretty much every individual stat is a different amount of bullshit. And so therefore style kind of is substance. So aura is almost more load bearing and therefore more determinant in a soccer context. And so I really like it being imported into basketball discourse because it's not a super comfortable concept and kind of requires, I think, an essay like yours and dumbasses like us to disentangle what is actually meaningful to be mined here.
That's very well put, and it also it speaks to this. There's a dialectic thing going on where it's it's so stupid and so opposed to kind of anything that it rather than living in the ambiguity, it just is something so different. But Shai looks sexy and is a bucket. That's cool.
It's kind of beautiful. And even the fact of talking about it. I remember I put out that piece, and immediately everyone was like, oh no, this shit's cooked now or whatever. It's just there's also this sense of the giving aura more than 2 seconds of thought inherently dates it, and all the kids who have been spamming aura are just disgusted by you for, giving it a moment's thought. But at the same time, it really is pervasive. You're seeing it in official accounts are tweeting a 4K photo of their star player who's looking glistening with sweat and they're 4-letter word, right? And it's happening. The aura takeover is here.
I wanted to bring what you're saying up too about its staying power and it's kind of it is existing in this content universe. And because as I was thinking about this, I'm who is doing that? And it's social media managers, 26-year-old social media managers who are running the @BennyTheBull account or whatever.
Back in my day, we had the Houston Rockets threatening to shoot the Dallas Mavericks horse with a gun on Twitter. Man,
simpler
things have
times,
changed.
Yeah, we're gonna have a different conversation about how all these team pages are just the more palatable version of Lil Debbie's pretending they were depressed. It's really unbecoming, but whatever.
No, I mean, well, so to that end, I had this funny thing where I was talking to my roommate who is a musician who doesn't know anything about basketball, actually has an album coming out soon. So shout out, go stream Avery Friedman's new album, but that doesn't matter really for this. And I was talking to her about this, and I was trying to explain aura, and I get a quarter of the way through, and she's like, okay, so TikTok edits, that's what it is. And it's in a sense it's a little bit more than that, but it did start getting me thinking about how it's almost like if you were to reverse engineer the perfect TikTok video or the perfect attention grabbing video, you would have emotionally evocative music, right? You'd have an exciting sporting thing happen. You'd have some kind of novel twist on a regular platform or whatever, a regular content modality. And those are the types of things that succeed in an attention economy world where we're swiping mad quickly. And so aura perfectly fits into that box where you get to express emotionality with fun, extremely popular viral CIA psyop rap music and somebody looking sexy, which also plays well, somebody being athletic and graceful, blah blah blah, also plays well, and this I'm part of a new community, smart kid looking at basketball in a new way community, which also plays well. And so Aura is perfect in this sense because it's a reverse engineering of what plays on social media. Forgive me for that diatribe, but yeah.
No, I think it's spot on. Also gets into like another weird thing about all of this, where it's like that analysis makes perfect sense to me, and also feels like the type of thing that, you know, some like faceless Adam Silver minion would want to be cooking up, which is all. It makes it all more fascinating that it really seems to be coming from like bottom up, and I think that gets to like this thing where I don't know. There's like whenever we talk about Aura, there's always this tweet I return to that just like puts a smile on my face whenever I think of it, and it's just pilots low-key have aura when you see them walking through the airport. And it's just that should have been my answer to what is aura, because like that really does explain it all. But like aura is at its root kind of like the search for a main character, and it dovetails really nicely with this like weird thing you see on Twitter from fans who pay money to watch the NBA. They don't make any money from it, but who are like totally preoccupied with like the future of the league, or like who is the face of the league, or like the battle over the soul of the league. It looks a lot like stands of pop stars who are like, we're going to run the streams up. And it is this just like brand new mode of engagement where you are like really intimately concerned with like the profits of a company that you like the products of. It's weird.
It's the mass movement of bro thinks he's on the team, which has taken over like all of broader culture for the past, I don't know, 5 years or whatever. And it's interesting that like it almost, that sort of modality almost makes more sense in like a K-pop or like Taylor Swift context. But like, as I was sort of saying about like the soccer comparison earlier, like it's funny to apply to a competitive zero-sum context like basketball, where they're like wins and losses and like determinate metrics of performance. And I think that ultimately deadens like the types of debates you can have. The like who's better, Kobe or LeBron thing ultimately like at its highest form devolves into like two spreadsheets like fighting each other. And so I think it's actually, you can have a more fun debate about like, okay, even stripping this of the out meeting, like whether Donovan or Shai has more aura. Like that's like a more fun and like wider reaching sort of debate to have.
Absolutely.
Completely, yes. I had a question about that top-down idea that you had, because I think that's interesting, because I lost it. Let me move into talking about some players who really identify this. We've talked of obviously the aura, like the patron saint of aura is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Mr. Cool Clothes.
He's got the cool clothes. He also, though, and it's funny that he's the patron saint because he is aura maxing, but he's also like good as shit, which makes you think that aura and skill are directly related. But they are not directly related. They are this like weird, sometimes like rule is meant to be broken, kind of like loose convergence, which I think makes it hilarious. So just to get specific to, because, you know, we even in esoteric stuff, we want some data. So I will give you, I have I have three kind of like aura all-stars, and then I have an aura confusing aura case, and I throw some more in. But then I also have two other categories which I'd like to unpack, which is players who have the highest gap between their skill and aura, where the skill outshoots aura, and highest gap between aura, where the aura outshoots skill.
Okay, I'm saying at the outset, there is a name I so hope we talk about, and if we don't, I'm gonna just.
Okay, so just first team all aura, I have Shai, Ant, and Booker. Those are basically like maybe I'm trying to think if there's a fourth so we can call him Mount Rushmore. The kind of interesting aura case I had is Curry, where he's like he almost has like babyface assassin swag fandom situation going on, but I wouldn't quite call it aura. He's almost like sexually aged out of aura. Like,
he also sort of has like a millennial J. Crew kind of wardrobe thing going, where he looks like 4 times as old as Shai off the court.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, he's not wearing Rick. He's like, he looks a little. He almost looks like he needs to be saved by a trend cycle, like Tim Duncan was. Right, like in like 15 years, people are gonna be like, "Oh shit!" Like Steph was
very
dressing.
true.
But like right now, he dresses like latter years Obama.
Like
but
if he
I
had
think-
somehow been, if his like style had like coalesced with people going to LCD Sound System concerts in Williamsburg,
Yes,
it would be like Steph has swag.
But like as it currently stands, yeah, he looks like Jay-Z at Grizzly Bear, but like right now he actually dresses like he's the third member of the Help, like, and he's like 110 pounds. But I feel like Steph and LeBron kind of like are in this. They split the market share for like the old head aura. I mean, Katie there too, but like there has to be. I feel like with aura, there always comes this like psychosexual thing. And like I personally see it more with LeBron, where you see those like bizarre drawings where it's like a bloodied LeBron with like a huge sword is like about to impale Klay Thompson or whatever. Like,
well, and he was the goat that Shannon Sharp was pouring honey on, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of like the homoerotic stuff is like downstream from LeBron. Like he is responsible for, and I hope we get into honey later. But yeah. So I do see the argument with Steph, and also think there's an argument to be made for LeBron of just kind of like, I don't know, but they've been with us for so long that you're almost a little desensitized to the aura of it all.
I think Booker is totally right, because for years and years and years, basically until the bubble, I considered him like an unserious player, largely because he was hot and his game was like kind of anachronistic. And it's like everyone just likes this guy because of what I couldn't say at the time was aura, but now, he actually is also extremely good.
A
on top
bucket,
of
yeah.
all that.
Yeah.
Does he have good outfits? I don't really know. He does.
I like. I mean, it kind of. This starts to have a different conversation of like, do you want your NBA athletes to be like experimental art pieces, or do you want them to like get fire fits off? Devin Booker, I like his, just like I would wear his clothes, but he's not taking as many risks.
Yeah.
We should also note before we get back to a topic that we talked about Kyle Kuzma a few weeks ago and how he's abandoned the tunnel fit. He's also abandoned like being good at basketball. So one wonders if there's a sort of like, if his aura was better, maybe his game would be better too.
Absolutely. I mean, there's like, you can completely. I remember there was a chart once that tracked like Spencer Dinwiddie's performance with the Bitcoin market share, and you can do something similar with like Kuzma's fits versus like how much time he spent thinking about like RFK Jr. Right? It's like the more he gets into this like actually only Mexican Coke can save you and like American Coke, whatever. Like he has started dressing like shit, and now he plays shit basketball. So I don't know. There is something there.
That's funny. Like, and this speaks to maybe where the league's going. Is the early kind of like NBA Reddit days. I remember people being like, James Harden plays bad when there's lots of strip clubs in the area, and it's like now
very,
people.
Like, we found out what day Ice Cube's it was a good day on.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's like probably like James Harden plays better, because somebody would be like, James Harden scores 40 every time he goes to Magic City.
This reminds me of when I was covering the Kings Warriors series a few years ago, talking to people and them saying, well, Poole's going to have a bad series because Sacramento, no baddies. And these people who lived in Sacramento who are making this case. It's like the evolution of the James Harden case, essentially.
I've got something for you off the record there.
Poole's on my list. He's on one of those lists. I'll tell you that. Okay, then. Well, anybody else to the first team all aura before I give you some of my other ones?
Not that I can think of.
I'm just looking at the points per game list, and no. Well, there's one very interesting like anti-aura case, but I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. So
the next one, these were just some people to get us started. So this is not my Mount Rushmore, but Embiid. This is the people who are extremely good but don't score high in aura. We should come up with a kind of like Gini coefficient style name for all of these things, but Perhaps we'll do that in post.
The acronym is Giannis.
Oh, Giannis is a good, yes. He wasn't even on there. So I'll add Giannis. Giannis, Embiid, Draymond, and Gobert. And I would then, those are but they're all big guys. So I was trying to think, like, are there any anti-aura guards? The best anti-aura guard I could come up with is Jalen Suggs.
I was going to say Luka.
Oh,
I think Luka's a really interesting case here because his game, like, there are some extremely beautiful parts to his game, like the passing specifically, but a lot of it is like kind of brutal and ugly, but like insanely effective. And off the court, he just appears to be like a gamer who wants to wear sweatpants.
It's true.
But I'm wondering if that makes a horseshoe theory case here.
I don't know. There's something I want to get into. Yeah. There's something I want to get into about, like, you know, I argued in the piece that, like, part of our aura obsession is this obsession with, like, saving American or, like, Western basketball. And so I'm wary of, like, picking too many people who are Europeans, for lack of aura. But I think, like, a guard with no aura is, like, Trae Young, right? Like, and that is, I think, the most persuasive case for, like, aura also kind of the number one factor being how you look. Because, like, if Trae Young looks like, I don't know, even like an replacement level attractive person.
Victor Oladipo.
Yeah, and he grifts like 10% less, right? But even then, it's like, I don't know. People don't care that because, you know, your obsession with aura, like, almost necessarily means you're not watching games that much. Like, you need these alternative. So you look at his points per game, right? And if he's a normal looking guy, like, I don't know, I think he might have aura. And so I think Trey's a great example of, like, aura-less. To
get to something you said earlier, aura being, like, actually kind of load-bearing for, like, do people want to play with you and do other stars want to be around you? Like, Trae is the probably best player who most other NBA players, like, run fleeing from. Like, I remember when the first year the Kings got good, when Kevin Huerter had been there for, like, a few months, he was doing an interview with Zach Lowe, and Lowe was just like, you know, how's it like playing in Sacramento instead of Atlanta? And he basically is just like, Trae never let me thrive. That guy sucks. No one should want to play with him. Like, kind of unprompted. Like, that was big L aura. Yeah, Trae's a good example here. Brandon Ingram, I feel like he's not really, like, good enough to have notably negative aura.
Yeah, he is funny because he kind of represented Duke. Brandon Ingram had aura. He is almost like somebody who aura has been beaten out of him by perhaps both age and you know, because I'll just listen, balls and strikes here. That dude is ugly. So there's a little bit of that, but then also his game. There is a joylessness to his game that I don't know. There was something so exciting about the KD facsimile and him being 7 feet and kind of has a smoothness to his game. But I agree the sum total is auraless these days.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The players, this is probably the funniest group. The players who their aura far outshoots their skill. Here's who I have on my list. Again, similar thing. This is not, I'm willing for this not to be the Mount Rushmore. These are just some people that popped into my head. Zach LaVine, Peyton Pritchard, Jordan Poole, and Jordan Clarkson, and then, of course, Cam Thomas.
Okay, we've got a lot to discuss there. I mean, Zach is obvious to me, right? I think Zach has just a tremendous amount of aura. I struggle with Poole and Pritchard for different reasons. I think Pritchard is just, I find him, you know, again, balls and strikes, I think he's ugly. I really can't get on the Pritchard train. And there's something with Poole, I do think, like, I don't know, we were talking about Ingram earlier and the style of play not being conducive to aura, but I also think your team is such a vector for aura, even if it's something as simple as, like, the jersey designs and, like, in your highlights, are you often down 45? And I think there's something that has like Jordan Poole's entire persona has become so nihilistic to me that it's like wearing him down in the same way that I've seen Ingram's life and aura be sucked from him. So I think maybe Warriors Poole aura outstripping capacity, absolutely. I see the aura leaving my beautiful boy's eyes.
Yeah, like there have to be stakes for it to make sense. And an interesting case then, I mean, you bring up the Celtics is like, I think Tatum pretty obviously is like very easy to define here, doesn't really have it.
Oh, I
but
should have
Jaylen
brought-
Brown,
he's-
I
yeah.
think, is the much more interesting question here because like I think he's handsome. His game is cool, but he also has like a kind of Kyrie-ish, doesn't know when to not talk, wears a magnetic necklace, is in this sort of one-sided Cold War with Nike that like kind of no one cares about. I don't know. Where do you guys fall on the Jaylen Brown question?
I think if Jaylen Brown, if there isn't that one off season where like the only thing anyone talked about was like he can't dribble with his left hand, I think he's like a shoe-in aura guy, right? Because it's like you start to see with him on Twitter all the jokes being like, oh, I'm Jaylen Brown, right? I get paid X number of dollars and I sit courtside and I have beautiful girl, like fuck you, you know, like so there is an acknowledgement that he's kind of got it all, but he has a stink on him that I think his current and probably future success can't really wash off. Of just like aura requires a level of like infallibility, which I think is why it's associated with young players, right? Because like once the shine comes off of you, the aura of it all is a lot harder to reclaim.
I think that's
Okay.
super interesting and basically correct. Like I was thinking, like I can't even really conceive of like where to put like Giannis on this axis because he's like so well defined, but he hasn't fully aged into the Lifetime Achievement Award of someone like Steph or LeBron. Whereas I think someone like Draymond actually can be like squarely judged as having negative aura because his game is like existed sort of outside of this like discourse basically forever. Like if you're talking about what he does off the court, it's like that he is off the court because he punched Steven Adams in the dick and balls so many times.
You know,
I think
Oh, go ahead.
interesting. Oh, not to cut you off, Harry, but like an interesting case of like what's gonna happen with him is LaMelo to me, because I think his brand of basketball is the most like purely delightful thing I've seen in a minute. In so far as it's just like almost nihilistic in a different sense, right? Where it's just like I'm gonna shoot one-legged floater threes going across my body and then like call Kemba Walker gang in the post-game interview. You know what I mean? Like it's just like there's something beautiful going on there. And I would venture a guess and say most people would call him conventionally attractive. I mean, I don't really know. He's a tough case for me, but he also just exists in this kind of like parallel Ball brother universe, right? Like he feels closer to like the YouTuber like Jake Paul universe than like TikTok fan cams. So I don't really know what to make of it. But like if you told me in 3 years he was seen as someone with a lot of aura, I wouldn't say you were crazy.
I think there's a certain amount of like player thirstiness that has to play into this. And like, to me, the defining thing with LaMelo, aside from a sort of, like you said, nihilistic is the perfect word for it, game, is like this total lack of media training and like disinterested with like, oh, sorry, I think I froze.
Wait, you total lack of media training was the last thing we.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry. Anyway, what I was going to say is, where should I start again? Where did I
The
get
total
cut off?
lack of media training is the last thing we heard.
The total lack of media training and like disinterest in like presenting himself to the public normally. Like he just got fined $100K for saying no homo. There was that kid whose foot he ran over leaving the arena, and then someone posted this clip of like 30 seconds of just LaMelo driving out of the tunnel and breaking like 7
So
traffic laws
fast,
in 10 seconds. It's such a good video, and I think it's like he doesn't like, if he cares about how he's being perceived, he's doing a really bad job of operating. And I think there's a certain amount of like for Donovan to do the Skims ad, he had to like have wanted to do the Skims ad. And so I think it's like, maybe fans need to like perceive a certain like desire to be perceived, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, the thing on the LaMelo, much like maybe Steph is lost in the wrong era of aura, LaMelo has this like immediately post 9/11 MTV Jams like rap video swag to him, like that he belongs in like a Mobb Deep music video or something. Like his swag is just like so crazy. Like I remember his rookie year, he bought a like fluorescent Lamborghini.
Oh yeah.
Which is
Yes.
so
Yes.
now, like the Donovan Mitchell, manicured new celebrity, current era celebrity version of that is getting like a kind of bespoke Kanye style bungalow. It's like that's how
Yeah.
you spent your money, or like getting like a matted out fucking robo car, whatever. What are those called? The Elon Musk cars.
Oh yeah.
But LaMelo's shit is just so off the wall.
Yeah, he's like the only future star who has like an outside chance of doing the like Lil Uzi Vert diamond in the forehead. Like, it's just like, yeah, God bless the Charlotte Hornets. Just everything going on there.
Like that's the perfect team for him. Like the very like childish color scheme, this like bone deep unseriousness. Like Charles Lee is giving these quotes after the game where he's like, yes, it's great that he scored like 47 points and made 8 threes and had like 12 of the craziest assists you've ever seen, but like unclear if he like understands that defense is like half the game. It's like this he's been in the league for like 5 seasons. Like he's the same draft as Ant and like Halliburton and stuff, and yet is still like thought of as like, I don't know, like maybe this is unfair, but I think people mostly think about him like a child,
Well, yeah, because he has that kind of like, I think we as just like a collective basketball watching audience were like worried about him in Europe. Like wherever he was, when he was like a 16-year-old
in
kid
Lithuania
going against like 35-year-old Lithuanian alcoholics who are like all Jokic brothers. And he comes back home and we're all just like, welcome home, brother. Welcome home, little man. And now it's just like, oh, he scored his points. Like I feel more like he's my son I'm watching excel in like rec league than it is he ever has a chance of like contributing to a playoff team in a meaningful sense.
There was this, God, it was an article or like an excerpt of a Zach Lowe podcast, but that I just remember to this end being so load bearing in our thinking of LaMelo, which was like some excerpt from him out of training camp his rookie year, and it was like he's bringing a lot of energy. People are really liking him, and I just remember everybody I knew being like, thank God, thank God the report isn't like he's playing music off of his iPhone during the
He's like
breakdown,
like pre-Christian Justin Bieber, just like terrorizing a suburb.
Because it was, we knew him collectively as this 14-year-old kid playing the most insane style of basketball you've ever imagined at Cheeto Hills with an insane dad. It was like he was about to be a Aaron Carter, Britney Spears, Amanda Baines style child celebrity get dashed to the side. So it's good that he made it to some degree.
Yeah, to continue this tangent somehow even further from the original topic, the careers that the Ball brothers had actually turned out to be probably better and more different than I really thought they were capable of. Because the hype around them when they were in college, especially with LaMelo, is they have this insane sports father who has hyped them up past any potential skill they could have, and if they get out there, they're all just going to be glory boys who want to take a million threes, and it's Lonzo turned out to be this incredible passer and hard-nosed defender guy, and if not for his legs exploding, which you could make the argument is perhaps because of playing so much as a kid, he was a really good player.
Triple B shoes.
Yeah. And then LaMelo becoming this what people thought Odd Future was in 2011, but the version of that's an NBA All-Star is kind of a wilder outcome than I thought capable of either. And of course the other one kind of sucks, but he's still grinding in the G League. He still wants to be a pro.
Yep. I want to bring us back briefly to kind of the Aura conversation, because one of the things that's interesting and one of the places where my conception of Aura sounds a little, with the attributes weighted a little bit different than Jack, specifically some of the stuff you're talking about, is I weight really highly a aesthetic game, somebody who has a smooth game. And so for me, Jaylen Brown, I was immediately no, because even though he's very good, the amount of kind of awkward post-contact shots where he shoots through somebody, or it's super contested. It's like, that's a fucking bad shot, but it like goes in or whatever. These are, again, make you a very effective, good basketball player. He's a fucking definitely a winning player, plays defense, a lot to like. But when I see that, I'm like, ugh, like that is like, looks like shit. Where Doncic is another example where there's something about the smoothness of his operation that, even though I agree that the foul baiting, and foul baiting is like immediate no or of course, obviously it's not even worth saying, but like there's a smoothness to LaMelo's game, to Doncic's game that says aura to me. So I'm curious where that lands with you two.
Well, I think so.
And Poole as well as a smooth operator.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to probably get into if we discuss Ball Don't Stop at all, and I wish the listeners could visualize me doing the Jordan three-peat, the election night Jordan three-peat. But like, I do think aura is this ironic response to like the slopification of the game a little bit, and I think like, if you value aura, like everyone's got a little bit of Ball Don't Stop in them. It's just a question of like how much. But like aura is contingent on this, like it's like this aesthetic return, right? It's like, let's throw out the spreadsheets. Let's just like dumb ourselves down a little bit. It's kind of like less about the written word and numbers and hard stats and more about just like soothing visuals, right? And so like that's why I love the Zach LaVine thing. It's just like when he's on the court, some calculator rat is going to tell you he's destroying his team and he's jacking up all these disgusting shots. And like what I, as a smooth brain guy, see is just this like beautiful man jacking up these like just
like Jordan-esque threes,
yeah. And it's like, and that was also why I kind of bristle a little bit about Cam Thomas, because like he's this just train that is out of control, right? He's like spinning in the wrong direction, firing up like triple coverage shots and just like kind of fat now. Like there's just like a lot going on. But like I do think it's not just how you look in your Rick Owens. Like it really is, are you shooting mid-range jumpers? Like that's kind of it in my mind.
I think this is actually the perfect moment to bring in Ball Don't Stop, because what sort of like that basketball fascist worldview and like,
wait, just because I suspect most of our listeners do know who Ball Don't Stop is, but can we do a quick primer on Ball Don't? Because also, Patrick, you wrote a wonderful piece about the state of blogging, but which everybody listening should read, but in part you touch on Ball Don't Stop. So can you give us a little who that is?
So I think the best way to explain him is like how I first became aware of him, where my friend Jeremy was like asking me, he's like, okay, you're a basketball person. Who's that guy who just listed attributes of Kevin Durant's game for like 75 straight seconds in a video? And I was like, excuse me, that's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I need to see this right now. So I found the video. I'm not going to, I can do the whole thing later if you want, but it's, he just lists traits for like a minute and a half. I'm like, who is this guy? And he's a Canadian basketball fascist. That's how I would just that passing shit. Okay. I'll just finishing, being aggressive, getting to the cup, throwing it down, getting to the line, making your free throws, your mid-range game, who you are at the elbow, your face-up game, your back to the basket game, your ability to shoot the turnaround jumper over both shoulders, your one dribble pull-up, your two dribble pull-up, your pump fakes, getting a guy up in the air, you touch around the basket, your left hand, your ability to pass the ball. That passing shit, comes real easy to a pure hooper like this. Rebounding the ball, defending, getting after it, defending, protecting the rim, getting out, closing out shooters, the defensive tenacity, the defensive urgency, the passion for the game, being clutch, saying, give me the ball, get out of my way, I'm going to make this tough-ass shot, and I'm going to do it again and again for the next 3 possessions. The ability to create off the dribble, the ability to handle the ball, be smooth, be fluid, and do these things at the grand stage in the playoffs against elite defensive pressure and the best of the best over and over again. He's done this since 2017, again, and again.
And that was off the dome. He just remembered that.
I have that written down. It's a Slack bot in our Defector Slack. But so like it was that, and he also released a list of his like top 75 players of all time, which was like crazy. Like
awesome.
LeBron is like not anywhere near high where he should be. He thinks like Allen Iverson is like one of the best players ever. And he basically like I found myself fascinated and like mildly endeared to him because his vision of basketball is like totally wrong. I think it's totally wrong and stupid, but like it's coherent, and basically he prioritizes like the pure aesthetics of the game and like people who can basically make the worst shots ever at a fairly consistent rate over like being good, which I think is like goes way too far, but does almost on accident unearth some like interesting things to talk about with like how the aesthetics of modern basketball have changed. And you wrote a really good profile of him essentially for your Substack.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we were kind of like working on these pieces at the same time. Like there was just something in the ether about Ball Don't Stop. And I just, for the record, like learned about him pretty much the same way as Patrick, except that video, when I encountered it, was just set to like Dreams and Nightmares by Meek Mill, which is just like, sometimes I listen to it like, you know, before big events in my life. It's really beautiful. But yeah, I think I completely agree that he's got this like coherent philosophy that is easy to make fun of and also really easy to admire. Because it is a total philosophy, right? And it will lead him to crazy places. Like, you know, I wish I could think of the types of esoteric names he will claim as a bucket. Like it really goes.
Marcus Thornton. He tweets about that fucker like 5 times a year. I watch Marcus Thornton. He sucks.
Yes, all the time. He was like the 5th, maybe 6th best scorer on the Nets, like when we were winning 25 games. Like it's like crazy. But Trey Mann is also a big one for him now because he does the whole AI cosplay thing. But without getting too ahead of myself, like I think Patrick's kind of jokingly calling him a basketball fascist, but
that's
like, it's
zero,
not a
zero
joke.
irony.
Yeah, because he really is like, if Aura is ultimately like a lot of fans trying to like justify to themselves like, why am I kind of mentally ill about this, right? Like isn't it a little weird that I spend so much time thinking about these strangers and like it determines my mood, and like I care more about having like Woj, I guess not anymore, but like Sham's tweet notifications on than like responding to my mom's texts, and like my career prospects aren't great, but like I am watching the private jet to see where like the most touted free agent is going. Like why do I have kind of basketball fandom induced schizophrenia? Does it suggest that maybe I'm like creating objects of desire out of these men that's too much to bear? No, actually I'm going to pretend I'm really into them, and like I'm in on the joke that I think they're so sexy, and actually it's all okay. Like if that's what's going on with Aura, what's going on with Ball Don't Stop is like 0% self-aware. Like it really is, these rats have come and stolen our joy, and maybe they killed Kobe Bryant and they're coming for you too. And like, if we do not free the political prisoner Jamal Crawford, like things are going to fall apart. Like that is kind of his political vision, which is just fascinating.
It's funny, and there are a few. I'm going to talk a little bit more at some point about how some of this maps to politics in these funny ways. But there is this kind of thing of the ironic usage of like red pill and kind of manosphere stuff, and kind of joking around that kind of thing, and being like, actually, like Trump's kind of funny. He's got a certain riz about him or whatever, versus, and then being sort of caught off guard, this like happy-go-lucky kind of post-left irony poisoned internet person being caught off guard by like the actual existence of Nick Fuentes or whatever. Yeah. There's this funny thing where it's like we're all joking, right? We're all kind of joking, right? And then it's like this guy is like, I'm not joking at all, and not only am I not joking, and this is, I'm confused about this in political and basketball things. He's fairly popular. People like Ball Don't Stop. People like what he has to say. Yeah, like yes. Totally. And so it's this weird thing where he's weirdly connecting to a group of people that feel kind of whatever, not spoken to.
Also kind of like, you know, to take that even further, like the ball don't, because he does, like, NBA players do fuck with him, but like a very specific substratum.
Yeah.
And it is like your Hooper radicals, right? like
Yes.
It is my favorite thing every year, and I really
I think I know.
if I can't make
I know
this
where this is
happen,
going.
you know it's the Pro-Am.
It's
right?
the Pro-Am.
And if I can't make this work for, you know, work and also funds, I hope Defector sends you, Patrick, to cover the Ball Don't Stop Pro-Am one year. But like,
We've
for
talked
those who
about
don't know, the Ball Don't Stop Pro-Am is this, I believe it is a twice yearly. I know it, like, it's on the schedule once, but he does it once in Toronto and like once in Vancouver, I want to say. But it is this Pro-Am, it's this basketball invitational that always revolves around like one of the
Wow.
Oh my
Wait,
god.
can you show that up again?
Oh my god. As I'm saying this, Patrick shows the Ball Don't Stop Vancouver 2023 Pro-Am merch. That is the type of thing I would spend a month's rent on.
Yeah.
Dude, the Toronto one goes even harder because it just has BDS in huge letters. And so a Palestinian friend of mine bought that one.
Which is so funny because, like, I'm not even gonna go to this. But we're not doing that. But yeah, the Pro-Am, there's always like the marquee invite is just this like bottom of the barrel NBA player, and again the gist of it is always like they are a political prisoner. They are like buried on the Clippers bench, and if not for like the conspiring forces of like Moneyball and Zach Lowe and like the blogger reading
Jewish
this.
people, yeah.
Again, yes. I mean, it's there. You know, if not for them, we could return, right? Like we could return, and it's just so fucking funny that guy invariably wins the belt at the Pro-Am, at the end of the Pro-Am. There's always some like dramatic KD at Rucker Park style pull-up three that sets the place ablaze, and then it's just everyone mobbing. But Ball Don't Stop looks at these guys with just unbridled love in his eyes, and it really is so beautiful. Anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying it reminds me a lot of like the more fringe, like think like JD Vance before the VP nomination is like kind of the type of NBA player who fucks with Ball Don't Stop. It's like your Republican congressman who like follows like Bronze Age pervert, right? And it's just like, why do you know about this shit?
Right.
Like that is kind of like the tier of NBA player who fucks with what he's doing.
The person who I thought you were going to bring up when you were like, this is the type of NBA player, and this is a bit sad, but it's almost like the dark underbelly of Aura and Hooper pilling is Isaiah Thomas.
Oh God,
who
bless.
I think multiple appearances on the Ball Don't Stop podcast is you know, there's maybe even a kernel of truth to him getting not blackballed in any political way or anything like that, but it is this thing where if you believe in the Isaiah Thomas experience, you need to turn the keys over to him. And, you know, I could see Isaiah Thomas looking at, he's probably, you know, riddled with injury now, but like, he's like, I could do 90% of what Trae Young does if I got 50 touches a game. Like
It's heartbreaking. It's Colin Kaepernick minus any politics. Yeah. Like, it's just like arbitrarily. The Isaiah Thomas next man up thing is just one of the saddest running bits on the internet.
Yeah, he has to be aware of it, but just the like point guard gets hurt and he does the like prayers out to his family, phones, you know, I'm available, like hit me up thing is so sad. But like the thing basically, yeah, like what we were kind of talking about is like Ball Don't Stop. He posits a return to like rugged individualism, which I think is part of the Aura thing. It's basically like a lot of this thesis posits that like all of NBA basketball, like fascism can always be understood as a response to socialism, essentially. And so all of NBA basketball is all about like this passing shit. It's all spread out, roughly equalized, but like the iconoclastic individual hooper who is brave enough to put the whole team on his back and like do Kobe stuff is totally lionized here. And I think the interesting sort of like linkage between all of this is Ant, because he's all the hooper pilled guys, like they all love Ant. I think in large reason because his game, like, he just kind of looks like Michael Jordan when he's shooting mid-range jumpers and shit. And like the effectiveness of it is like still sort of up for debate, but like it's clear that he's like the one guy who's really beloved by, I don't want to say both factions because there isn't like another one, but like I guess everyone.
Which makes it fascinating that now he's going to this spamming 3-point thing, right? Like that's been like one of the subplots of the we are seeing too many threes, and look again what they've done to our beautiful boy. Like Ant is shooting, however many threes a game. And like I think one more thing I would add to the mix with Ant as kind of like the looking glass for all this is also something I wrote about in the piece, but which is like the elephant in the room with all these conversations is also like the European hooper, right? And it almost feels like an oxymoron because like you are not a hooper almost definitionally. If you are European, you are seen as this kind of like invading force, this like I joked once that they are like the Slav menace, but like I actually do think like it's like whether you are one of these like weird parasocial people who's invested in the future of the NBA and you're like can't contend with the idea that someone who looks like Nikola Jokic is going to be the face of the league, or you are someone who kind of like lionizes the Kobe Bryant days and you are kind of disgusted by like Mr. Run and Dunk, right? Or Ball Don't Stop, even though he's Canadian, there's something to be said about like the weird pathology there of like being this like Trump supporting like Kobe stan who's just like randomly from Canada. Yeah. Like none of this is any of your business. But like when you see all of this stuff hinging on Ant, I think like the third piece of the puzzle is like people putting this psychic energy in like, can Ant be the future American star, right? Like, can Ant save us from a future of a league that is like quite literally balkanized and like revolves around these kind of like savant fat guys or people who are media trained into nothingness, whether it's like Giannis and his dad jokes or Victor talking about like the power of reading or doing like Michelle Obama spiels about like healthy lunch, you know what I mean? Like, and so Ant kind of has that too. It's like, can you save America?
Yeah, Victor is the interesting guy here because I don't think BDS has like acknowledged him. And I do read all of his tweets because I find him a very like useful bellwether for like what not to do basically. Yeah. Like what the median dumb guy take is, but like it's interesting that like the Europeanness is seen as like anti-aura basically, and this like maps onto a lot of American pathology is like about Europe and like politics generally. And do we talk about the Ball Don't Stop Trump thing when I was getting the shirt?
A little bit. We joked about it.
We should talk about it.
Like it's always like he seems kind of just like Trumpy and fashy in his preference for basketball aesthetics and like the way he expresses those. But like on election night, he tweeted out the Michael Jordan holding up 3 fingers thing, which is like coming out as both a Trump guy and an election denier guy in the most Ball Don't Stop way possible. That like I won't say it brought me levity that night, but it was like it was so shocking that it made me think about different stuff for like 10 minutes. So
I will say it definitely brought me levity, and it was also like I think now we can look back and be like, oh, Ball Don't Stop posted one of the funniest tweets of the night. But what's lost with the distance of time is like the literal timing of the tweet. Yeah, like it was literally right as people started to like doom post, and it was like it felt to my taste a little too early. It's like, I don't know, I'm not the biggest election guy on earth, but like there was a lot of stuff still out there, but the betting market started to swing, and you can tell Ball Don't Stop is like a Kalshi
head,
big Poly market, and like he was like randomly like at Sovereign House, but it's like North Carolina. Like there's North Carolina gets called, and all of a sudden we get the three-peat. And it was just one of the funniest things I have ever seen, especially because I have personally bullied him into deleting tweets before. And so it's like, I know he's a tweet deleter.
Oh, he's a huge tweet deleter. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It is pathetic. I mean, you got to stand on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think like it is obviously fashy. And I think like like with, I guess we're getting into like deeper waters here, but like with fascism in general, or just kind of like the political trends that Ball Don't Stop like jokingly represents in the NBA, but also like quite literally supports. There is always, I think, this like accurate diagnosis of like this ambient sense of like things are getting shittier, right? Like things feel off in some way. And I think for Ball Don't Stop, it's like quite obvious. It's like he is literally grieving his idol's death and like cannot make heads or tails of it. And also he's grieving getting older, right? Like it's always this like, we will never get back to this era of hoop. And it's like the Christmas commercial where they're dribbling out jingle bells. Like it's like not even anything particularly spectacular.
He yearns for like the Jersey era.
Yes, exactly.
Like of like 2012, basically.
Or just for like waking up on Christmas morning. Like as a child.
Yeah. Like what he misses is
which I do too, but
the
in a different way.
comfort of not having to be a fucking content creator and hope that Isaiah Thomas sees your tweets, right? Like
right.
But then of course the diagnosis is like kind of sinister. I mean, I don't know. He hasn't sanctioned like political violence against Sam Presti or whatever, but like it's
which
coming.
Would be awesome. That would be fun.
Yeah, of course. I mean that is something that we could bridge coalitions with.
I want to. I had another kind of funny political mapping thing that I was thinking about around. So I was thinking about the in politics in the 90s and even early 2000s, the Conservative Party was the party of censorship, right? They were like, we got to be more politically correct, and people are saying fuck on MTV, and that's rotting our children. That has now flipped. The Democratic Party is now or whatever liberalism is the perceived of as the party of censorship. I was thinking about how there's a similar thing going on here in the Hooper battle versus advanced analytic battle around who has their finger on the pulse of intangibles, and how advanced analytics originally evolved out of this idea of like, we see that Shane Battier is a gamer. We see that these forgotten role players are providing something that is not being found in the box score. Mm-hmm. We are on the intangible cutting edge. How do we build a set of stats around that we can now? How do we have a language around this that we can talk about intangibles? Cut to now, that has flipped, where the entire game is played on a spreadsheet, according to these people, but there's this intangible of bucket getting, of clutch, of this straw that stirs the drink kind of thing. It is now the box score, specifically points, specifically field goals attempted, that ostensibly tells the story of the intangibles. And it just is like, it's not a perfect comparison, because I think the Hooper pilled community, I suspect, is actually kind of a small but loud community. Perhaps most people don't care about either of these things, but it is funny how we think about intangibles, and how, to get really big about this, what we're talking about is it's fun to notice players that impact winning. It's fun to think about how people help winning in obscure ways. Basketball is a very complex game. It can be fun to check these things out in a way that maybe mainstream logic isn't picking up, or mainstream discourse isn't picking up. So it's funny how just like that has flipped over 20 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's like, probably a small portion of people are Hoopers, but also like in the bubbles of people who like talk about basketball on the internet. Like I do think like the silent majority of people you talk to at like a pickup run are, I don't know, the same way Aura is like this like absurdly ironic meta concept, and also the most intuitive thing on earth of like, oh, he looks sexy, he's marketable. I think that has a lot of staying power, right? Like I do think actually your average guy who isn't, as tapped into like the conversation, the meta conversation about basketball, is more or less just making gut judgments of like, oh, that guy's a dog. Right. Like he's got that dog in him, and it's just said without a shred of irony, and it's just like this spot on intuition. But I think like what you're talking about, I think, is really interesting of the kind of what is happening with numbers. Now we're going back to stats to defend Hoopers. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but like my Twitter, or I guess X feed, is like half kind of heady basketball writers and people who are like posting those on-off things and making all these fucking fake metrics that have funny little names. And then it's half just like what I like to think of as fans who are like in the trenches, whether they are stans or just like day-to-day fans. And what I'm seeing more and more is the Real app, like screenshots of this app that is like basically social networking, but for players' stat lines. But like what you see.
Oh, is that what that is? I see that all the time.
Yeah. And it has like the 3 emojis underneath it, right?
Yeah.
And it's always like someone like messes up and they get like the Vince Carter "I got one more in me" reaction, or like stuff like that, or like Jared McCain goes off and it's like the nails, goat, and a pride flag. Like it's like crazy, but like it is this like social networking thing for stats, and it is the most useful tool for pushing like player-based agendas, right? Which is, I think, like the new frontier of fandom is like complete isolated. Like I have my 5 guys. They don't have to be on the same team, but like basketball fandom is inherently about pushing agendas. And I think like I've been talking a lot about like how the nature of fandom has changed, but I think like a tidy, if potentially incomplete, explanation for what you were talking about, Harry, is like when the analytic revolution is happening, we're also talking and thinking about basketball like 70% less, maybe 90% less, right? Like it is in these recent years that if you wanted to, you could be thinking about basketball 24/7, right? Like you have X number of specialty podcasts about it. You have fan service writers. You have your respected analytic-based writers. You have people who synthesize the two. You have endless number of like Twitter or sub-communities. You can go on NBA Reddit. You can go on team Reddit. It's like as with anything, like the content stream has become inexhaustible. And a lot of these kind of like revolutions and pullbacks also feel just like referendums on like, now that the default is we are talking about basketball all the time, where are discomforts coming from that? Like, and the pushback against analytics to me is like, just like we talk about free agency and player movement too much, it feels like we are not talking about the game enough. And there's this kind of this anxiety somewhere in like the lizard brain of like, why am I spending 80% of the hours talking about basketball and 20% watching them, right? And so then you have this kind of like instinctive return to like, you guys are just watching the box scores. We got to actually tap into the game. But what maybe is really going on is like, I need to stop talking about basketball so much. Like these numbers are not going to save me.
I wonder if there's this thing where one of the values of one of the features of the never-ending content stream is you can be in this perpetual state of like gooning knowing ball, where you're like you're like knowing your worldview, your basketball worldview is being like perpetually sort of validated by like the 7 podcasts you listen to over and over again forever. And that requires there's something very boring about an analytic answer to any of this stuff, where it's like, well, then the gooning ends. I've busted, you know, like
and that's when you turn to draft Twitter.
But you know, like there is you can only split numbers so far, but you can split like these discrete offshoot things, and basically, and I think you say this in your piece, is like extract more and more dopamine out of your phone, which is where all of this is going on. Like you can continue to scroll endlessly towards aura because it is indefinable and nebulous and post-ironic or whatever, in a way that like looking at win shares is not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this brings me to the sort of like my plug here, which is getting washed. It's really great to just realize how much of this shit is just stupid, and if you like basketball, you can just watch basketball. And I feel like this, if there's not really like a thesis statement version of that, but like I think something this podcast tries to get at is like, this can all be fun. Like it doesn't have to be, adversarial.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's just like, and that's kind of what I was getting at earlier. Like unless you draw a check from the NBA or an NBA team, or fuck it, I'll give you a G League affiliate too. You should not and cannot be worried about the future of the league in any sense past like abstract discussion, because it's interesting the same way the future of anything is interesting. But all of this stuff, right? Like you do have to eventually get washed. I don't know. Like I am a Nets fan. I am currently in a period of intense washdom, right? It's like these games are happening and the only reason to watch them would be to argue on Twitter, right? Like the only thing happening there is, am I going to pick a fight with a bunch of teenagers about whether or not we're tanking hard enough, or whether, Jordy Fernandez needs to be sent into the sun because he doesn't understand the assignment, or yada, yada, yada. And like, there is a lot of value in just being like, actually, I can watch when I want and they'll probably lose, but it's kind of win-win and that's fine. And I think that is like, in this almost horseshoe theory way, you end up being like, oh, I guess I'll just tune into a game and root for the guy with the most aura. And like, it's all beautiful and fine,
I think that's like a great button to this aura conversation. That so concludes the aura report. You guys now understand what having out meeting Shai means. You understand what being zesty. We didn't even really talk about being zesty, but you guys understand it's perhaps who is and who isn't zesty. But most importantly, you guys now understand, if you don't already, Ock Sportello. Like I said, and I DM'd you even before all of this, before I even knew that you and Patrick followed each other. Before we did the podcast, Patrick and I were texting about your art. Like before we were doing this podcast, I was just texting Patrick about your article. I love, honestly, I love everything you write. I think you cover the pillars of my interests, which are rappers from Atlanta and basketball and weird internet stuff. So definitely check out Never Hungover. Follow Ock on whatever new social media exists.
Follow him on the NBA Statline social media one.
Yes, real.gm.
Subscribe to Nothing But Respect. Even fucking actually more importantly, subscribe to Nothing But Respect. Give us 5 stars. Show us you're ever like, oh, how do I support independent media? What can I do? I love this podcast. I have an idea. 1, tell the most powerful people you know about us. 2, tell everybody else about us. I guess in that order. So anyway, thank you all. Patrick, Ock, any final words?
No, just thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no, this was great. And just wherever you are, if you're listening to this, I include the host in this. I am pouring honey on you. You might not even know it that way. I guess we didn't even get to it, but the honey is there regardless.
That's beautiful.